Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Verde Beach. And in the previous episode, we spent some time on disaster recovery, and I think it's time to move past that and focus on this neighborhood right here. Maggie Myrtle has been working diligently, even through the disasters, at coming up with a plan for her land. And the plan involves the Lewis Lumber Company. She's been in talks with the heir to the Lewis Lumber Company, Linus Lewis, and basically the Lewis Lumber Company has always been pretty inefficient. So if we take a look at the Lewis Lumber Company, one thing that we'll immediately notice is that most of the raw forestry products produced here are simply outputted. And when you take a look at the output, the value that we're getting for this 192 tons of raw forestry product, it is significantly less than the plain timber, which is 32 tons, or the paper, which is, it's 88 tons of plain timber and 40 tons of paper. So that disparity is something that they have wanted to remedy for a long time, and Maggie is going to come in to the rescue. There are a couple of things that I want to take a look at and see if I can solve, though, before we get to this. One of the things that I mentioned in the previous episode is that we had a significant rail problem, and I think I've figured out what the rail problem is. Right here, this station is allowing intercity trains, and we don't want that. This is going to cause all these intercity trains to wait to serve this station rather than passing through like this one is. And that means that all of these trains that we have allocated to this line, which there are many, if we take a look, we have just boatloads of trains with 20 people. First of all, we're going to take this down just a bit. Take this down, eliminate maybe 4 of the trains on there, and hopefully that will calm this line down, and this will remedy itself over time. I do know that we've got an issue with our freight and our passenger lines also intersecting. That's something that we're going to have to, it's going to be a long-term solution and not something I want to take on today. The other thing I want to fix from the last episode, before we move on, has to do with our emergency services. I know I said I wanted to move on from this. There's one thing I need to do, and that is look at the tsunami warning buoys. So it was rightfully pointed out that I added none of them out here. So we're going to add some ways out. And the reason I'm adding them so far out is I added a bunch that were really close to the shore. And so if you have one of these really close to shore, it's not really going to be all that helpful. Here's one, for instance. Detection sensitivity, 10 meters. We're right next to the coast. By the time we get here, the city's already gone. The other thing we're going to want to do is just get these things rebuilt. This was a fire that occurred sometime in the last episode. Clearly not something we want to keep. Okay, so our park is completely fixed up. And if I recall correctly, there's also something along the shore here that also needs to be repaired. Ah yes, right here in Solemn Palms, there's an earthquake sensor that it's in need of being rebuilt. So we've taken care of that. Let's go on over to Maggie Myrtle's land and take a look. Okay, so the part, first of all, we need to find some appropriate topography for this build, and this would be the most convenient location for everything. The problem is we've got this little area right here, and then it drops off a cliff pretty quickly. The other thing that we're going to need is more transportation options in this area. So the two parties, both Linus Lewis and Maggie Myrtle, have been working together in an effort to work with the county to get another road put in here. Now, you'll recall that we added, we graded a bit of land here to extend this road over, and we're going to make a connection over here. But we want to do that in a place that's going to make sense for the new factory. So what we're going to do is terrace the factory in this area and run the new collector along here. So let's get started with that. The very first thing that we're going to do is go into our level terrain tool. We're going to grab a big swath and we're just going to start leveling some of this. So this is the earthwork that you would expect to see before a large project like this. Okay, so now we've got a level pad for our factory sites. We need to find a good place to bring in our collector road. So our collector is going to line this road. So we're going to again turn on a topographic view and run this along. Now the best place to come in here is likely right about here where it's flat. So we'll bring that in about 10 tiles and then immediately sweep down and then use our curved road tool. Just line things up perfectly. There we go. That is nice. So we've started our work over here. We're going to bring that around. We're going to probably level some more to keep that road as straight as possible. At the same time, work is occurring over here. We're going to have to pause for this one. We don't necessarily have to, but I would like to because it's going to make this whole process a little bit easier for ourselves. So now what I'm going to do is, looking at the terrain view again, bring this road over here and then sweep our way up here without disturbing any of the natural features. But this is not going to be high enough. We're going to need to do better. And as a result, we're going to use our slope terrain tool. Come in here. We want to get up here, so we're going to select this and we're going to pull it up. We don't want to go so extreme. So I'm going to actually draw a road segment up here for our new road. And then I'll use the curved road tool and make that connection really nice. There we go. Perfectly sloped all the way up. So now we've got to find a way up here. However, we've got another issue, and that is this road is not straight yet. And we absolutely want this to be as straight as we can because it's going to help us have a nice orderly factory site. Now I don't know that we're going to have enough soil to make this absolutely perfect, but we're going to try. Yeah, we already ran out of soil. So that's not unexpected, I suppose. So what we're going to do is pull this road along again. And then again, we're going to bring this soil out ever so slightly. And here's where we're going to taper down. So we'll come back in here. We'll select the height of this road and then the land down here, and we'll just sweep it back and forth. And this will help us with our soil availability, because then we're picking up some soil as we are moving it back. We're going to need to do a little bit more earthwork to make this happen, but it's okay. We can do it. And ideally, you're grabbing this soil from a nearby location so it's easy to transport. There we go. Now the rest of this land shouldn't be much of a concern. So we'll just bring this in straight, find our node, or our guide rather. There it is. And then we'll make our connection. A nice sweeping connection through there. So we've got some cleanup to do, but it is going to be significantly easier now that we've done all of this. Let's get this to be as heavy as we can. Just taper this off. Okay, so we should be able to resume our simulation, and the whole point of doing all the smoothing over here was to give it a nice clean and professional look. So we're going to do the exact same thing over here. This is going to be a fairly steep slope. However, we want it to be straight and crisp. In fact, a way to make this even more crisp is you could add some sort of guideline. Well, that didn't quite work the way I'd hoped, so maybe we'll just steal the soil and then we'll replace some at the end. Okay, so that's more or less what I was hoping to get out of this location. So we're going to need to build a local roadway network, and I know you're still not aware of what I'm intending to build. We'll get to that in just a minute. So this is going to be our rear road. Nothing will be built in between here. That will be landscaping. And we're going to need some sort of fence to prevent cars from inadvertently driving off this cliff. Because that wouldn't be a good situation. Okay, so what we're going to do here is attempt to find a node. We want to give enough space in between this intersection and where we're going to actually be coming into this neighborhood. I guess neighborhood maybe is a generous term. Oh, and that is really ugly. So we can do better, and we're going to do better. There we go. That's much nicer. We can find something to do with this land. I'm not overly concerned. But what this is going to be is the start of our factory area. So I want to line up some of our factories along this road. It'll exit out to this collector here. And in fact, we'll probably want to convert this over to our industry roads eventually. And this will be our primary connection in. So I want to bring our factory district over though. So let's click on our paint industry area. We have our Lewis Lumber Company over here, and we're going to just pull that right across. And I could disconnect these. I don't really see the point. So we're just going to paint. And I changed my mind. We're going to go all out. We will disconnect those districts. But at least now Lewis Lumber Company includes this area. So we've got a big disconnect with our production of our raw forestry products and our finished goods. And that's a problem. I'm noticing another problem, and that is our workforce. Now this is curious to me. We have, fractionally what we need for uneducated workers. We have some, and then we have almost none that are just educated. We have some that are well educated, and then a bunch that are highly educated. And they can filter down and work lower level jobs, but we have 503 overeducated workers. So what's curious to me about this is that we spent time focusing on having neighborhoods that, would facilitate having lower education workers. So Lewis Shores is one of those neighborhoods. If we go in here and look at our policies, we see that the schools out policy is in effect. So we should have uneducated workers, educated, maybe well educated. So uneducated is no school, educated is elementary level, well educated is high school, and highly educated is university. And it's interesting, right here I see highly educated workers. There's some educated, but highly educated again. I'm sensing a pattern, and I'm wondering if land values has something to do with this. Yeah. So how about over here in Myrtle Park, our other neighborhood? Same pattern. A whole bunch of highly educated workers living here. So this is actually mimicking something that you'll see in reality. And you'll sometimes hear when someone proposes a new luxury development that we don't need this. We need workforce housing, and we need housing built at the lower levels. Well, one of the reasons why building luxury housing even can be a benefit to a community that is experiencing a housing shortage is that highly educated people are willing to live in other housing. They'll take whatever's available to them. And that means that they can displace people who maybe that's the only housing that they can afford. So we're going to need more housing at some point. That is something that both Linus and Maggie are aware of, but they're still moving full steam ahead with their plans to build out this factory. So that said, we might want to, temper our expectations a bit. Maybe we don't want to overbuild our pulp mills, for instance. I want to have a bunch, but I don't want to overdo it. So it costs 360 units to line up with the pulp mill. So if we go 360 again, I would assume that gives us the space. Let's see. It does. It's perfect. So we're going to go through and add a couple of these. So we have a significant pulp mill complex here now, producing paper, which is a good that is desperately needed at this point in time, apparently, even though it's 2,134 and everyone is probably like, I've never heard of paper. There's still a demand for it in Verde Beach, so we're gonna fulfill that demand. So don't fault me for creating paper mills when paper is potentially something that is vintage and thought of in a very nostalgic way. We're still gonna go for it. Okay, so we've got this going in. This is a big cul-de-sac. It will have problems. It also doesn't have any lumber stores or anything like that, so we're gonna need to think about that. and think about where these finished products go. So we're going to need, first of all, let's make sure that we have a place to store some lumber. So we're going to put a couple of large log yards here. And I've got a very specific plan for these. So you're going to see me draw a parallel road back here, which might not seem to make a ton of sense just yet. But I assure you that by the end of this, it will all make perfect sense. So we've got those, and then we also need storage for our finished products. So we're going to go in here and grab our warehouses. I'd love to have just a gigantic warehouse. Yeah, we're going to do it. That is going to be great. We use our curved road tool to make that connection. And it's actually making me reconsider this road's alignment. Yeah, that is much more efficient right there. So this is not a very long length. Actually, that's pretty terrible. So we're going to go through, we'll do this instead. There. Nice sweeping roadway movement. That'll be just fine. So this is going to cause lots of problems in its current configuration. So what we're going to need to do is have a collector couplet through here. And I want to get, so this is going to be the in. And the primary reason for that is now we're able to go and pick up our forestry goods, take them over here, and this will be our out. And then as we finish, we can drop it off over here at our large warehouse. So we've got to configure our warehouse. We'll set this to empty. We are going to store paper here, which makes perfect sense to me considering paper is a dry good. You'd want to keep it in a store. You don't want this to be stored outside, open to the elements. I've seen that happen, and that's in the game, not in reality. Never been to a paper warehouse where they're just storing it outside. That's crazy. So there we go. We've got that in place, and it's looking good. It's looking really good. And you can see that the traffic is flowing. We do have a little bit of queuing right here. This is going to be because we got to set these to fill. So right now it's balanced, but that's not really helpful for us. We don't want this to be a place where they are bringing in the lumber here and then exporting it. Eventually, that's not helpful for us. So this will be a good setup for us. I'm curious what this has done so far. So we have significantly increased our paper output. We had one factory before, so we were producing something like, it was 8 tons going in here, something very minimal. But we still have a significant amount that is just being outputted as raw forestry products. We're still losing money. So I want to see this really crank up the value. So why don't we get some plain timber as well? And I'm thinking that we can have this along this road. So there are 2 options for plain timber. We have a sawmill. It's kind of the lowest production building for this type. And then we also have an engineered wood plant. We want to go all the way to the top. This produces double. It also produces twice as much pollution, a little under it. Significant noise pollution, not a concern. Let's just do it. So I want to place a pod of these, and we'll do that on both sides. Okay, so this needs water, so we can extend that down. And then we're going to need storage for this as well. Wow, look at that traffic just queuing. That is pretty impressively bad. We're going to have a solution to this. We'll have to get to it in just a moment. So I'm wondering, okay, we have, what are these vehicles? Tree plantation, returning. So there is a solution here, and it's another outlet onto this collector. We don't want to force them around the factory if that's not where they need to go, but we will take care of that in just a moment. First, I want to add another storage facility. So I don't think I have enough space, and I don't for that large facility. I could shoehorn a smaller facility in, but I think we're going to have to go with several smaller facilities. Now, the storage capacity, we're looking at 250,000 versus 75,000. So we're going to need at least 3 if we want to mirror what we did before. A little bit of ugliness, but we'll take care of that. So this will, again, we'll set this one to empty. We'd set that for the paper as well. And then we'll set this to plain timber. There we go. We've got a little bit of work to do here, a little bit of earthwork to get this cleaned up. There we go. That is much better. Well, that's better enough. It's not perfect by any means, but it's fine. It's not fine. I can't let it go. Okay, that is good enough. So now we have all of this traffic coming down here and looping around. And I'm regretting my decision with this road a bit. So we're going to do a little bit of work here. Okay, this is not perfectly balanced yet, but we're gonna have a solution for that as well. What we're gonna do is pull this collector up and create redundancy with this road over here. But to do that, we're gonna need to do a little bit of earthwork again. And I can't recall exactly how much soil that we have, but I'm sure it's not enough. Oh, we do have soil. Well, that's a new thing. So this is probably going to tap us out, truthfully. So what I'm thinking is that we can come from here and slope our way down. So we're going to set our terrain height here and then come over here. There we go. And we're providing an outlet now, another route out of here, which is going to be really important. And this is a nice connection because it also provides another access to this cargo rail terminal. So it's certainly an important thing for this area to have. So at this point, now you're not forced into any particular direction. You're able to do a number of different things. So I think that's a big improvement here. So now I want to again take a look at my industry area effectiveness. And before we do that, let's get rid of this weather through the power of YouTube. Okay, there we go. Much better. Do not want to deal with the rain right now. We are dealing with lumber, and that reminds me a lot of a game that I like to play where I deal with lots of wood. Gotta get to that. Gotta do another episode of that soon. Anyway, here we are. Things are looking good. How are we looking on our factory effectiveness? We're becoming more balanced. We're still outputting at certain points in time a ton of raw forestry products that we're not using. So again, that concerns me. I want to get this number to really ideally be significantly smaller than these all the time. But I am seeing a profit, and look at the money that we're bringing in now. We are really starting to crank that up. How are our buildings looking over here? I want to look at individual buildings. 31 of 95 workers. And again, that educated gap and the uneducated workers. That is a problem. And we're going to need to resolve that. Otherwise, we're going to be in kind of a world of hurt here. So why don't we see what we can do? First of all, I think that in looking at that last menu, I could tell that we're not fully optimized here. So when we look at our industry area overview, we've got an efficiency bonus of 28. And what that tells me is that if we have a couple of more workers barracks in here, maybe we can increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the workers in this area. So I'm going to add a couple and see what that does for us. So we've got kind of an awkward gap in here, which I don't love. It's fine. In no normal, sane world would I say we need more impervious, and we can't add it anyway. So that was a fool's errand. We'll just move that over, call it a day, and maybe I'll see if I can move this road over just a bit to balance it. Yeah, that's better. That's much better. So now I want to look at our efficiency. We're up to 39% now. So that's better. That will help us produce more goods. And it looks like that output is still very much skewed towards just kicking out the factory products. So let's finish up our road network through here. And then I want to take a look at what we're doing with our junctions. We will set priority. And then we'll go through here and set our junctions. And then we're good. We have traffic lights where they're necessary and nowhere else. So that should help us out. And you see that the traffic is dissipated quite a bit because of the work that we've done here. In fact, if we look in here, our traffic's in a pretty good spot. Our overall city traffic, maybe not so good, but we're about 85%. It's pretty darn good, especially with this gigantic factory complex that we've just created. So I'm feeling good about that. I do think we need to think about the workforce over here, as does Maggie. And this is all happening with Karen really freaking out. She just rebuilt her neighborhood, and now there's a factory right there. And we've got truck traffic coming, making its way over here. I guarantee it. Let's take a look. Look at those freight trips just blowing up. And when we look at these individual roads, we're really not seeing a lot. We have public transport and cargo. Really, these are staying local to the factory district, which is what we'd hoped for. Now this road right here, which is another core connection, we are seeing some freight go that way. And we of course have a ton coming on this road, but that's not coming from the factory district. But that's not what Karen thinks. And ultimately, this would be presented at a public meeting. That the heavy traffic movement from this district, when you click on this, is really going in between the highway and other areas, and this bridge here, which is an industrial bridge anyway. That was the goal of this area, and she's not having it. So she's upset. Thankfully, she's not in Verde Beach. Remember, she decided to build in an unincorporated area, and as a result, her concerns, well, they're valid, and I guess, and people are hearing them. They're not holding the same weight as a Verde Beach resident. And residents always like to hear that the local officials are creating jobs. That's what they want to hear. So we do need some sort of workforce housing to serve this area. And there are a couple of things that we should look at, pollution being one of them. We clearly don't want it right here. We should also look at our resources to make sure we're not using any up. Okay, so nothing really here. And then I also want to look at noise. That is, again, not really a problem right here. And what this is all telling me is that this is a perfectly fine place to build some workforce housing, very close to their jobs. I am deeply disturbed by something I see right now, though. And I know that this is not a big deal, but I'm going to fix it anyway, because it's going to bug me if I don't. And that is that we have this little divot here in the road. Completely arbitrary. This would have been caught, so a little mulligan to get this a little bit nicer. And we will fix these power lines too. Another mulligan. Good to go. And these power lines are going to go soon anyway, so why be overly concerned about them? So we've got this little area for our new neighborhood. It's workforce housing. We know that we need uneducated workers. Let's see what else we need. So we look at our area overview, and it's really uneducated workers and educated workers. So we're only going to have elementary schools in this neighborhood. We're going to have the schools out policy, and hopefully that will give us what we need in this area. So I'm going to build one collector road into here. Let's make sure that we're looking at our terrain so we're not going too far. And then we're going to build one more over here. We'll angle this in. And this is going to be, we had to pause it because I actually did not plan this appropriately. So I was going to run this right into our new tower, which isn't going to work. Okay, so we have the backbone of our little suburban neighborhood over here. I do think that we're going to want to switch sides of the road to the power line, at least for the time being, because I want to maximize what we can zone here. So this will be a temporary power line. What we're going to do here is just have a small neighborhood with a great deal of connectivity. We're going to leave a gap in between the neighborhood and the road. We will line that with trees. Okay, I just tried to design something that was going to be fairly compact that we could easily build upon. There's a main street in here that we can have some groceries and things of that nature. And we are going to fill in a bit back here as well. Okay, and this power line is redundant, thankfully. I was a little bit worried about that, but... oh, no, it's not redundant. Right now, Karen is very upset, and this time, I think I agree with her. They do deserve power, so we're going to make sure they have it. Hoping that this connection is close enough It is not. So we're going to, again, temporary power lines. We'll get rid of those. So we've got a nice little neighborhood back here. And we already know that we need to have the schools out policy, which means that we need a neighborhood drawn here. So we have Spruce Hills. Let me know if you have a better name for this neighborhood. I'd love to hear some suggestions. And if you see a name that you like, please give it a thumbs up so that I know that that is the name that you like. So the very first thing I want to do here, the main thing I want to do here is have the schools out policy. We also don't have public transit being free in the community, and we're creating an immense amount of wealth. So we are going to bring back free public transit for everybody. Because if we're making that much money, there's no reason we should be charging. And I wonder how much. This is not because of Lewis Lumber Company. Interesting. Or I just missed it. One of the two. We look at our budget panel. I want to know where we're getting all of that revenue from. And it's dropped off considerably. And it is our industries. So warehouses and unique factories. Very interesting. Very interesting. So I think that is our new buildings that we have over here that are creating all of that wealth for us. So now we're going to go through here and start zoning. We're going to go fairly dense here and be very deliberate with our zoning choices. So I was initially thinking maybe I would run the commercial through the center of the neighborhood. I think I might just have a couple of nodes now of commercial in the neighborhood, but nothing more significant than that. Clearly I could line it back here, maybe even back here, and a couple here, just to shield from some of the things that are happening. And we'll add a little bit more back there as well. We are going to need a significant landscape buffer, and we are going to zone right along the collector for residential. Not something I love doing. I would never want to live along a collector, but it does happen. People accept it. So we are going to accept it ourselves. Now we need water pipes. We're going to place those underneath the road where they belong. There we go. We are having some power issues here. So I think that we're going to just feed this power right across the road. So we can keep it on that side of the road. And eventually we'll be able to disconnect some of these lines, but that eventually is not now. So you can see that that took care of our housing need. We also need a school here, so we're going to place that now as well. And I'm going to pause it so that we don't need to use eminent domain on a bunch of homes to get this school built. So we'll place one here. Maybe we'll place two, actually. And then we want to give these schools a little bit of green space. This will really double as a neighborhood green space. And I really think that every neighborhood, regardless of the value of the property around it, deserves a bit of green space. All right. We're in a good spot now. We're really starting to move in a positive direction. I do want to get some sort of buffer along here. What I'm thinking is that we'll add in a fence. We'll use our grid to place this. And now we're going to eliminate some of these excess power lines that we no longer need. Boy, I really need to stop it with that because we need all of our power lines. There we go. Now we've got power again. I was hoping to get that fence run along here just a little ways, but it's just not in the cards for us right now, and that's okay. We should also take a look at our junctions. Don't want arbitrary signalization. That's very expensive and not at all needed in this area. So the other thing that we desperately need here is a bit of landscaping. So let's put some trees along here. And this is the kind of thing that I think it's too bad that Karen didn't realize the amount of care going into this neighborhood. Maybe she wouldn't mind it so much. There we go. So our power connection is now through this neighborhood, so I'm going to eliminate this one power line that's no longer necessary. Same with this one. We're going to keep this one because I'm not going to make that mistake again. And see if there's any additional land that we can zone. There is. That is what I was hoping for. This is a dense neighborhood. It is very utilitarian in nature. And we need it to serve its purpose. And then along with this neighborhood, one of the things that the city is going to do is ensure that there is a fence back here. There are safety grants to install fences along rail corridors. And that is because there are times where people will do things in these corridors that they shouldn't be doing and get injured. So we're going to proactively think about that rather than waiting for an accident to occur. There we go. So at this point, we've got that fence. It's kind of hidden back here. That's exactly how we like it. Hidden from view. And then we'll clean up some of these backyards. Now this would be a little bit disturbing, and we're lucky that we're not in a cold weather climate, because these sorts of radio towers, they ice up in the winter and ice shards come down from them, and they could be deadly. So I wouldn't want to live anywhere near this thing, but I guess in an area like this, maybe it's not that big of a deal. So one of the things that's interesting now is I see that we have this pedestrian connection here. Now this is meant to serve the radio tower, but it doesn't mean it can't do double duty. So we are going to think about some pedestrian connectivity through here. And now we have a connection all the way over here, which provides access. Oh, I don't want you guys going to the college. No way. So now you can't go to the college. You can't get to high school. You're stuck here. Sorry about that, guys. But that's what we need. So you're going to have to deal, unfortunately. We'll give you another pedestrian path. We'll give you a path. You can look at the factory. There you go. Factory view. That'll work too. We'll even jazz it up with some landscaping. All right. I'm feeling better about this. And while we're at it, why don't we just do a little bit more? There we go. Feeling good. Feeling real good. We can get rid of these power lines, finally. There we go. And whoa, we got space for this. Boom. Now we're in a good spot. It would be nice to change this road through here and maybe mitigate some of the sound pollution or future sound pollution. So we will really emphasize that this is a residential area. Now, one of the unfortunate things, we don't really have a mode of transportation to get here outside of walking. It would be nice to have bike facilities, but I'm not yet. Maybe in the future, but for the time being, this will have to do. So the residential demand is essentially nothing now, which is kind of unfortunate because we certainly need more residential uses if we want to fill in our factories. And what you can see is that we're still not meeting our education goals. And the primary reason for that is all of these folks over here need to go and get their education. So right here, we got well-educated and highly educated people moving in. But we do have uneducated and one educated worker. Over here, uneducated. Oh yeah, this is it. So they're going to go to the elementary school. They'll get their education, and then they'll go work at the factory. That's exactly what we were hoping for. So I do want to clean up this back wall. This is pretty ugly. And what we're going to do is just throw in some of our high vegetation back here. Before we do that, there are some trees kind of growing on the cliffside, and I don't really want that, so we're going to get rid of those first. There are a couple of spots where we spilled into the road just a bit, so we'll back this off. Oh, that's much better. And now we need some trees. And so I'm thinking we'll add a couple of large trees and then fill it in with some smaller stuff. We'll keep those on the ground. And then over here, we're going to want to be mindful of that vision triangle, which is basically the area that someone could see if they were pulling around the corner. We wouldn't want to obstruct that in any significant way, especially with the heavy freight movements that we have coming through here. They already have a difficult time seeing at times, so we don't want to make it worse by adding in trees arbitrarily. Oh yeah, this place is on fire. Not literally, but figuratively on fire. Feeling good about it. Last but not least, I think that we need to protect this area a bit. So we're going to turn on our grid again and our angles. I just want to make some key connections with fences along here. And then I want to see if I can use the curved road tool to really make clean connections, or if that's not a thing. It appears to not be a thing. Try this. Nope, that doesn't work either. So we will need to use the the freeform tool to make this work. That's okay. We're good with that. I'm not going to be overly concerned about entirely encasing this in. I just don't want anyone driving off this road. I also don't want this vegetation peeking up through here, so I might get rid of a bit of it. We'll replace it. And then this is Verde Beach after all. We should probably extend that fence just a little bit further. We'll round this corner. And then we will put some palm trees. This is Verde Beach after all. And we even need our forestry industry to feel tropical. So let's do it. So I talked a big game about those vision triangles, and then I immediately went ahead and blocked it. So why don't we fix that? And now you can see around that corner right there. Don't want to get landscaping there either. We're in a good spot now. That is looking slick. Maybe not the greatest views from your house over here. You got the Pop Soda billboard. You got some really bright factory pillars poking up there, but you can see the skyline poking out back there, so it could be worse. And you got this really cool old abandoned factory that the kids could play in, so that is something. What is it? I think I see something right there. Oh yeah, I see a city tour. I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. We have accomplished a lot. We've built this beautiful factory district, and we built a small neighborhood with approximately 830 people. Let's get one more look at our industry. We still have a mismatch in terms of our output in our different industry areas. In fact, it looks like our raw forestry products are still, most of them are being outputted as just raw trees. However, I think that once we get the worker situation sorted, we're going to be in a better spot, and that's going to take some time. And it might take more than just this little neighborhood that we built. We might need more neighborhoods similar to it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so, and hit the notification icon if you want to know when I release new videos. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.